What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. If you've been checking out the vlogs, thank you for that. But today is going to be a little bit of a different video. I'm going to be talking about homesteading. I'm your real estate broker here in Southern California, Long Beach to be exact. And I've been noticing there's a trend going on in real estate right now where a lot of people are leaving that city lifestyle. They are leaving the rat race and opting to move to a more peaceful, quiet lifestyle, and it's homesteading. They're buying land by water. They're buying vast lands in the middle of nowhere and putting homesteads or purchasing homesteads that already are on the land. I wanted to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the topic. If you just want a short, quick little snippet, a little short, then go ahead and check out my short. But if you want to know more information, let's get into it. I'm here in California, like I said, so I am going to pull up some properties in California. Honestly, for the top 10 states to do homesteading, California is not on the list, but you know, it is what it is. I'm gonna look at California, but if you're in a different state, or if you're gonna choose a different state, feel free to Google schmoogle and find, you know, that state and research. And you still can use these sites that I'm gonna be showing you today. I'm just gonna be focusing on California because, to be honest, a homestead is something that my husband and I have also discussed. Like, how would that work for us? Like, could we pull off a homestead? My husband loves nature. I do too, but I like to be close to, you know, I gotta have something that's of city. I'm not a city girl per se. I used to love camping. I love doing water sports. I love going to Santa Catalina Island because you can go kayaking, you can go hiking. So I love that. It's just being remote scares me. So if I did homestead, I totally would need to be near something, a hospital, an airport, something. I don't want to be in the middle of nowhere. But if you don't care and you just want to be living off the fat of the land, let's get into it. Let's dive into it. The websites that I'm going to be checking out today are landsearch.com, and then I'm also going to look on realtor.com because realtor.com actually has a section called California Farms and Ranches for Sale, and I'm pretty sure you can probably find, you know, whatever state you're looking for. First, let's talk about homesteading and what you need to be considering and what's important about homesteading. So you really do want to consider the location. Location is important in real estate in general, but for homesteading it's super important because you need to decide, like, are you someone that needs to be rural and you want to be solo by yourself? You don't want to hear anybody, any trace of human. You just want to be out there in the land with the animals. If you want to have a community around you of homesteaders, that's something to consider about location. And then the weather condition. The weather condition is very important. Most of the homestead states that I looked up, like Wyoming, Alaska, Michigan, they have some really harsh, long, cold winters. So don't just pick any state. Make sure that it's something that is sustainable for you and you can handle the climate and the weather conditions in that area. Also, you need to consider the price. The price changes across the nation when it comes to location. Some areas like Connecticut have really high property taxes, where some areas like Idaho have really low property taxes. And then the laws in the area also change depending on what state you're in. Idaho and Tennessee have really favorable laws for homesteaders, whereas Oregon has really good tax exemptions, but then there's also restrictions on where you can homestead. So you want to do your research about the location because you don't want to just pick something because maybe it's cheap. You definitely want to do as much research as possible because you don't want to be stuck with land that you can't take care of, that you can't afford. Also, you want to consider safety. You want to know, like, how close are you to roadways? Some of the areas, especially in Alaska where homesteading is allowed, is so remote that you need a plane to access it. Do you care to be by a hospital or other people so that if something happens, like, you have help? Are there roadways? If there is a natural disaster like an earthquake or tornado, are there hot spots for flooding? Those are topics that are very important and could make or break your choice to choose the area where you're homesteading. We talked about weather conditions a little bit, but you also want to talk about the climate of the land. Can you farm on that land? And what is the climate? How many seasons do they have? Do they have all 4 seasons, or is it mostly snowy? There's a cutoff to crop growing in some of these areas that have really harsh winters. Depending on where you choose, like Arizona, you have to be specific about which crops you're even planting in the desert because not all crops are going to work out there. If you're going to have animals, you definitely want to consider that. And then also, if you have children, children, how are you going to homeschool them? And then also, you want to make sure that you're putting yourself in an environment that is sustainable for your lifestyle. Could you see yourself living amongst the community? Do you think you have the same mindset as some of the people in the community? It's really important. You don't want to be in an area, you don't want to be like Hatfield and McCoy where you hate your neighbors. Even with a vast amount of land, you want to feel like you're good, and you just want to be happy. Humans need other humans, and you want to be able to go to farmers markets and go to events or whatever you can do in that community. Let's move on to the financing of it all. Like, how are you going to pay for this homestead? Are you going to pay cash? Are you going to take out a loan? If so, what type of loan? When you're considering a homestead, you definitely want to make sure that you figure that out, the cost. If you're going to be buying vacant land, how much is it going to cost to build your homestead? Are you going to need to put in utilities? Are you going to need to put in sewage? Are you going to need to build a couple of roads to provide an easement, a road to provide access to your homestead? Now, you want to analyze your finances pretty heavily, because with something like this, you probably are going to have to come with a little bit of a larger down payment. Now, if you're going to be paying cash, that's great, but you want to make sure that you budget for everything. So if you're buying the land, you want to make sure you do a really good inspection so you can figure out what's going on with that land. Do you need to fix anything? Do you need to add in any utilities? So you need to factor in all of those costs for making the big step. If you're going to be getting a loan, just like with any other real estate purchase, you need to consider your debt to income ratio. Typically, you want to keep your debt about 35% or even lower is better of your total income. There's different loan options for you. If it's raw land, there's nothing on it, it's just raw vast land, it's typically going to have a really high down payment and probably a high interest rate, because you are going to want to put something on that land. You might need to use the land as collateral to get a construction loan, whatever the case may be. But if you're going to be buying raw vacant land, it's probably going to be a really high interest rate and a really huge down payment. Raw land means that it is just not off the grid necessarily, but it might be very remote in the sense that it doesn't have a lot of roads leading to it. There's no power or sewage. It's like almost like undiscovered, untouched. Then there's a type of loan for unimproved land. Now, unimproved land is not as basic as the raw land. It will probably have a road to access the property. It probably will have sewage and power. You might even have great access to water. But with the unimproved land, you're still going to have a high down payment and probably a higher interest rate. Now, with improved land, it's already partially developed. There's tons of roads and access to it. It has all of the utilities. The down payment for this type of loan is going to be a lot less, and the interest rates are going to be a lot more comparable. You can use several different options to acquire your loan. You can go to your bank or your local credit union. I would suggest, for the area that you choose, go and see if there's a local credit union that specializes in buying farmland or homesteading land. They might even have a consultant or a specialist that they know of that they can recommend to you that can guide you through this entire process. Now, there is a loan product called a USDA loan, and this is the type of loan that you can get. It's a government loan basically, and you can get it if you are buying land or property in a rural area. The USDA loans are from the US Department of Agriculture. These loans are great because they tend to have really good interest rates, and the down payment is really reasonable. And they have two different options for those: a Section 523 USDA loan for those that want to build the property themselves, or you can go through a Section 524 USDA loan for those that are going to be hiring a contractor. I don't think I've heard a lot of people talk about this loan product, SBA 504 loan, which is administered by the Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration, or SBA, usually will partner with local financial institutions to help buyers purchase rural or farm agricultural land, because the purpose is that maybe you're going to be starting a business. There is a YouTube couple that went super viral. They started their homestead. They are going to be growing crops because they have an organic juice company. Someone like them that is inspired by their story and wants to do what they're doing, you could possibly get a Small Business Administration loan to purchase your property, especially if you're going to be starting a business. And these types of loans typically require around 10% 10% down. So if you're somebody that's really creative, you're selling at the local farmers market, or you're starting an organic farm to table, I don't know, but you could start a business and possibly get a loan from SBA 504. Then you have the home equity loan. So this is probably something that my husband and I could consider, because we own 2 different properties, and we probably could pull from our equity from either one of the properties, rent out the current property that we're living in, and then go and buy a homestead somewhere far away and rent out both of our properties. So if you're in that situation, then you probably can pull equity in the line of a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit, and then you can get that equity in almost like a cash, like a checking account, and you can use that to purchase your homestead. Just be careful when you're using this type of product, because although it is probably easier to do than getting one of these other loans that I mentioned, you're basically using your home as collateral, and the interest rate varies with whatever the consumer interest rate is on the HELOC, not on the home equity loan. The home equity loan will be fixed, but your cost will go up. So you want to make sure that it's something that is feasible for you, that you can afford, that you can rent your property out at market rate. Or if this is just going to be a second property for you and you're still going to live in your current residence, come up with some type of income producing idea for your properties. Maybe you can Airbnb your current residence while you're vacationing in your second property, and vice versa. You can Airbnb your rural homestead location while you're living in your current residence. In my opinion, it's always good to have other income stream. And then there's also the option of seller financing. Typically, seller financing is for someone that needs to sell that land or that property, but they don't necessarily need the money up front. They don't want to be the owner anymore. Like maybe they're older and they can't afford to maintain the property, or they're older and they just can't do it anymore. Or maybe they inherited the property and they don't want to have anything to do with it. They don't necessarily need the money up front. They'd be willing to take cash flow and be paid by the new buyer. Seller financing is a pretty cool option that allows the seller to finance either all or a portion of your financing in order for you to purchase that property. And then instead of paying your bank, you pay the seller every month a mortgage payment. When you find your property, you definitely, or the area that you want, you know how you're going to finance it, then you really want to dig in and start doing your research, because now you need to figure out what costs are going to come with this. Every real estate transaction has closing costs. Maybe you need to get an inspection done. Definitely want to make sure that you get a thorough inspection so that you know anything and everything about the soil, about any water, about earthquake, flood zones, all of that. So that's something that you want to factor into your costs. Then there might be other costs like permits, or if you don't have utilities yet, do you need a septic system built? All of those things. Definitely want to make sure that you know anything and everything you possibly can about the hidden costs that could come with purchasing your homestead. Now we're at the part where we're looking for land. We got to find some land. I would suggest when you find an area, even if it's outside of your state, if it's close enough to drive, go drive there. Take a plane, bus, trip, train, I don't care, boat. You need to go check out this area, because pictures can say 1,000 words, but when you go in person, totally different sometimes. Trust me, I have been to tons of properties where that photographer needs whatever award they give to photographers, because that property does not look like that in person, and I'm assuming with the homestead probably even more so. Go see if you can link up with a local real estate agent and see if you can tour the land. I wouldn't put it in an offer until you know for sure that this is somewhere that you want to be, because once you put in that offer, you have binded yourself with this seller to purchase the land. Let's take a look at some of these websites. I'm only going to be checking out a few. Now I can check my MLS that agents have access to in California, but I don't know where farmland is in California because I live in the city. So what I did was I went on landsearch.com and I pulled up California homesteads for sale. Now there are some that are $1 million. There's land that's $14 million. Wait, we're not looking at that land. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna filter this from price low to high. Now we're seeing something that's a little bit more our speed. I'm seeing San Bernardino County, 29 Palms, California, Trinity County, which is Hayfork, California. See, these are areas that I could have never imagined never have heard of. The prices are pretty reasonable. We have some for $169,000. The one in San Bernardino County, which was very deserty, was $39,000. So obviously if you're choosing that area, please do your research if you're trying to grow crops. So I'm seeing some under $100,000, not any that I would purchase. So that's why I kind of touched on the topic of buying vacant land, because if you want land that is improved with the actual building and a nice home on top of it, it's probably going to cost you more than you would think. You might want to consider having a contractor build you something on vacant land. Okay, this one's not too bad. This one is in Hayfork, California. It has 3.85 acres. It's priced at $279,000. It has an 1,100 square foot home on the land that has 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It also has a detached garage, and the garage looks like it has a bathroom as well and room for a workshop. Definitely something that if I purchased this, I would have a contractor come in and update it, or my husband and I would work on it and update it ourselves. So this is one of those properties that would be considered improved land. It has access to roads, utilities, and it has a property on it. So this is one of those properties that you probably could get a really good USDA loan for low down payment, low interest rate. Let's see if I see any more, because I'm not really sold on that one. Here's one in Bridgeville, California. It's priced at $275,000. It's 40 acres of land. The house looks really old. I don't know, but it definitely looks like Little House on the Prairie. Yeah, it's giving Little House on the Prairie. I'm not mad at that. I used to like that show. I used to watch that show. Let me know in the comments if you used to watch Little House on the Prairie. I definitely did, and I liked it. The land is huge. Oh, it's easy access to Highway 36. It's accessible to a road. Oh, seller will consider seller carry. So the seller is willing to finance the buyer for this property. This is definitely something that would take a lot of work. I would say no on that one. A lot of these are going to be like full-on renovation project. Okay, let's see if me and my husband decided to sell our house. Let's go a little bit higher than we would. Oh, look at Mendocino County. Beautiful creek nearby. Oh my gosh. Oh, but the house is trash. Let's say my husband and I decided to sell our property. Right now, our property is worth about, last time we checked, it was like $1,096,000 or something like that. We will walk away with probably about $425,000. Now, if we sold our Compton residence, we would walk away with around $500,000. So together, $925,000. Let's account for some closing costs. I am a real estate broker, so I can broker these deals and possibly not have to pay an agent. Let's say we walk away with $900,000 and we want to use that money to find a homestead. Let's type in a price point. Let's put a price filter on here. I'm still on landsearch.com, so I'm going to put in a price of, let's say $650,000 to, let's say $850,000, because maybe I want to do some renovations. Let's say $800,000 because maybe I want to renovate. Okay, yeah, we're definitely seeing some better properties. Let's go ahead and price high to low this time since we have a range, and let's see what we come up with. Mendocino County, Redwood Valley, California. This house is pretty different and unique. Let's check out this house. They're all very farmy, y'all. They're very Yellowstone. Coming in at $774,000. We have some agricultural land for sale in Redwood Valley, California. Let's read the description. It's a large house, a small house, a workshop with an apartment above, a barn, 2 ponds, orchard, and outbuildings, all on 50 acres. And it's just 4.5 miles away from Highway 101. So it's accessible to a road. It has 4 bedrooms in the main house, 1 full bath and 3 half baths. And then adjacent to the main house, there is a workshop or a garage with additional bedroom and bathroom above it. Then nearby, it has a detached 1 bedroom, 1 bath cottage. There's a 3-stall barn once used for horses. There's a covered trailer with attached living room and a greenhouse. There's tons of fruit trees. There's a chicken coop, wood and tool sheds. There's 2 permitted ponds on this land. There's an established orchard and additional outbuilding. In farm language, that is a building such as a shed, barn, or garage. So there's tons of those on the property as well. And it is considered a ranch property. They are part of an HOA. I don't really like HOAs. With this HOA, you have access to the central swimming pond, the ranch house and barn to use for events, and over 300 acres of common land. The owner will also carry the loan on this one. So this is also a potential seller financing opportunity. There's tenants in common ownership on this one, which means there's a co-op, probably because that 300 acres of land, I'm thinking. It's not a huge deal breaker, especially if you're going to be accessing that co-op land to use the HOA amenities. $774,000 for 50 acres. It was built in 1976. The main building is 2,300 square feet. So this is potentially something that I would consider. I probably would do some updates to this property, and it looks like it comes with a built-in community, so you're not going to be totally remote on this one. So this next one that I found is in Olancha, California. So this is in the northern Mojave, so there's desert land there, but this is something that I probably would consider. The main property looks like it's pretty modern, and it looks actually really cool and eclectic. Northern Mojave Sage Flats Ranch, and it's about 20 miles south of Lone Pine on the 395. Access to roads there, and it looks like it's a 2.5-hour drive from LA as well. This is something that you can homestead on. Check out what crops you can grow in desert land. It's 40 acres, $795,000. I love when there's a detailed description, especially for a homestead, because you know you can't just do a 2-liner. It's teeming with diverse microenvironments ranging from natural springs and meadows to deep ravines, and shaded by cottonwoods, with the majestic Olancha Peak as a backdrop and sweeping views of the Owens Valley, Coastal Mountain Range, and Eastern Sierras. This property perfectly embodies the essence of the California Great Basin Sage region. I need them to write my MLS descriptions, because wow. The main house, constructed in 1945, is a ranch style abode featuring 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, seamlessly integrating modern amenities with timeless charm. It showcases a fireplace crafted from local granite and obsidian. The expansive wraparound sun porch serves as an idyllic spot to relax and soak in the breathtaking vistas. Adjacent to the main house, the standalone 20 by 40 studio garage offers a versatile space suitable for guests or an art studio or workshop. A piece of Olancha's rich history primed for your vision, whether it be a private, okay, all right. So yeah, and then they go into the whole little realtor spiel where they're trying to, you know, convince you to come check it out. This is a cool property, tons of history here. This is definitely something that I would consider, and this is probably something that we would not have to sell our properties for. We could pull out home equity and purchase it, and then Airbnb it, and then when we want a vacation and take a break, this is somewhere we can easily drive to. It says it's 2.5 hours from Los Angeles County. This is something I would consider. The main house is 2,015 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. It was built in 1945. It's in Inyo County, and the agent looks like they're from Joshua Tree Realty. This is my vibe. I love it. I'm not fond about the desert, but if we were to get a homestead, this would be ideal because it's not far from LA. So let's check out some of the options that realtor.com has. Now, realtor.com has a section called California Farm and Ranches for Sale. Like, you can click California in the search box, and then one of the filters you can choose is farm. Now, you still want to do your research on all these places that I'm showing you to make sure that there aren't any restrictions on homesteading. Usually when it's zoned agricultural land or farmland, you're good to go. So let's take a look at some of the houses that realtor.com has. Let's go ahead and set that range that we said again. So I said 650,000 to 800,000, and then let's see what it comes up with. Wow, okay, so even more properties. Let's see if anything that I would consider. A lot of them are contingent, y'all, meaning they're already in escrow. A lot of vacant land over here on realtor.com. I don't really want to deal with the vacant land. I would prefer improved, where there's a building or a house. Wow. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and choose this one. Even though it's pending, this is definitely something I probably would go for, but it's pending, guys. It's not available because it's already in escrow unless it falls out. Now, right off the bat, I can tell that there's a ton of updated landscaping that needs to happen. That carpet has got to go. I'm sorry, we're not doing that. But other than that, this home is beautiful. Really tall cathedral almost style ceiling. So it is located in Onyx, California. It looks like it's accessible with a road. It's right off of the highway. It was $720,000, 74.34 acres. The house is 3,506 square feet. There's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. I'm not sure where Onyx, California is, but I will put up a map. So this one is off the grid. We got some variety here. So the other one was not off grid. That I would totally go for. If I wanted to be off grid, I'm not gonna lie, this house is amazing. Off grid gated mountain home, 74 acres, 2-story, 3 bedroom, 2 bath at 5,000 feet elevation, 30 minutes from China Lake. Pinyon Peak and Pacific Crest Trail are close, and property abuts Kiowa Wilderness. 420 feet private well, great for remote workers. So if you work from home, this might work for you because they do have satellite internet. It's close to Ridgecrest and Lake Isabella. This is something that I definitely would go for. You know, those are a few properties that I'm showing you here, but you can take your time and peruse around on realtor.com or Zillow or even landsearch.com. Once you find the property that you like, go check it out. Go drive over there. Go drive around in the neighborhood. Go get a local paper. You'll learn so much from that. Do your proper research on all of the costs of owning this property, the utilities, the property taxes, the zoning and land restrictions in the area. And once you've done a thorough set of research, then I would say go ahead and make the offer. The only reason why I'm stressing research is because this is such a huge investment in general real estate, but to buy land, that's a big deal, especially if you don't know what you're doing yet and it's going to be a learning curve for you. You want to do as much research on the front end as possible so that you're not getting yourself into a money pit, or you're not finding out that you've purchased something you weren't prepared for what comes with it and you end up turning around and having to sell it. That's why it's so important to have a real estate broker, and I can connect you with a great real estate broker if you're looking in some of these areas. I have a huge network of agents, over 100,000 plus agents that I have access to that I can reach out to in these areas. Feel free to hit me up if that's you. Once you submit your offer, I would try to get as many inspections done as possible. This is where title companies are super important as well. You want to make sure there's no liens on the property. If there are easements that the government has or that the utility companies have, you want to know where they are. This is not as important in the city because we have power lines and stuff everywhere, or there's access to drains and stuff, and it's not a huge deal. But out here, you want to know because maybe people will be accessing your land that you didn't anticipate because they have an easement. And using an agent, super important for your offer. I know the laws have changed around buyer's agents in California, but if you can afford to and the seller is willing to pay for a buyer's agent, I would definitely go with a buyer's agent. You can even use a lawyer, for God's sake. Use somebody, because this is such a complex transaction. You don't want to do something like this on your own unless you're an experienced real estate buyer. Last but not least, I wanted to bring up some options that the government gives. It may not be desirable to most people because it's usually seized land. If it comes with bad karma, I don't know, but it's usually seized land the government takes from people and they put it up for auction on sites like disposable.gsa.gov or realestatesales.gov. The government has surplus land or property that was seized that they put up for auction. So if you just want a deal, you don't care where it is, that might be an option too. I didn't talk about that area because if I do a homestead, I would definitely want something that has been lived in, that I can have a good connection with the seller and talk to the actual seller and ask questions. On a government property, more than likely, you're not going to be getting a lot of information. So it's going to be a lot more legwork, a lot more footwork and research that you're going to have to do on your own. Whereas if you're buying the land from the original seller or even from the family member of the seller, they're going to have way more tons of information, history on the property, maybe even blueprints or really cool stuff that you just wouldn't get from dealing with the government. This has been very detailed. If you followed the video along the way, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, share. If you have any tips on how to homestead or buy agricultural land, please don't keep that to yourself. Put it in the comments below. If you like this type of video and you want to see more videos like this where I'm showing you how to buy different types of properties, whether it's vacant land, we can talk about that in depth, that not just rural, but we can talk about buying vacant land in the city, or how to buy a condo, or how to buy a tiny house, or whatever. If you like these type of unique buying topics and you want to see more, then show me in those likes, show me in the shares and the comments, and then I will get them out to you.